GBP USD, and that is the cable market. And in fact, we've been doing pretty well on the GBP USD in the last 24 hours, as we currently have 3 buy positions running in this market. Before we go into the details here, I would like us to run through how the week started and what led to the decisions we made so far this week. Now, at the beginning of the week, we acknowledged that price was finding lower highs and lower lows, leading into a situation where we positioned ourselves for bearish opportunity. And prior to the selling opportunities, we acknowledged the lower highs, and in fact we connected this series of lower highs which gave us this descending trend line. And one of the things we said here on Monday is that as long as price remains below that descending trend line, we shall feel comfortable in our sell positions while we look out for more selling opportunities down there. But if at any point in time price breaks out of that descending trend line, then we want to be getting ready to buy the GBP USD. Now, we saw our first sell position for the week after price action broke down the support line of this range, as we saw our first sell position triggered at the breakdown of the 1.2200 level. We moved our stop losses accordingly, and we saw price take us out of our sell position at a worst case scenario break even, hereby leading to the breakout of that descending trend line to trigger our first buy position. And since that moment, we have been buying the GBP USD. And remember, we also acknowledged levels such as the 1.22360. We also had the 1.22650 level, all of which we said a breakout retest of that structure will be welcoming more buy positions to our existing trade. And as you will see right now, we are very much profitable. So the first position here is running with about 88 pips in profit, while the second position here is running with about 50 pips. That's a total of 140. And then we have the third position running with about 25 pips. So we have approximately 150 pips in the last 3 days in this particular market. So congratulations to everyone who had been part of this profitable journey. Now, the next thing we want to be doing here, as you all know, is to move our stop losses right now to secure the current buy positions as we look out for more buying opportunities. And based on this current structure, I'm of the opinion that as long as price remains above the trend line, we look out for buying opportunities. So our stop loss will be anywhere around the 1.22650 area. Remember to allow enough room for price action to break, just in case we could witness a false breakdown of structure at any point in time. Now, with a well-secured position at this juncture, what is going to be our next line of action for today's trading session? Now, before I go deep into what we are looking at for today, I would like to refresh our memories on what we saw on the 4 hours time frame before we go into the details here. Now, on the 4 hours time frame, I would like to emphasize here that we talked about the bearish momentum, and in fact, we went ahead to acknowledge a descending channel that had been guiding this bearish momentum. So we connected a series of lower highs, giving us this resistant line of the descending channel, and we also connected a series of lower lows, giving us the support line of this channel. Now, fast forward into the last week of the month of September, we saw that as soon as price broke down the 1.22650, we saw price fell into a range between that level and the 1.222040 area. And within this old range, we begin to notice that buyers were gradually gaining momentum, which resulted in this higher low we saw here, giving us this ascending trend line we had here. And this led to a significant breakout of the resistant line of that descending channel, and we saw price come back to retest the resistant line. And we agreed here on Monday that as long as price remains above that resistant line of that descending channel, we'll continue to feel comfortable in a buy positions while we look out for more buying opportunities in this market. Now, we also had this level here at the 1.22650. Remember, this level had been a strong selling niche since the last 3 weeks in this market. We saw how buyers were finding it difficult to break above this area. The same thing also happened on Friday of last week trading session. However, this week we finally saw the breakout retest of the structure, and with this breakout of the 1.22650, let's assume that the sellers have been taken out here, and as long as price remains above this level, will continue to hold on to a bullish bias. So for today's trading session, the 1.22650 level is going to be playing a major role in determining our decisions, and of course makes us feel comfortable in whatever position we are. So what I'm simply saying here is that if price remains above that 1.2265, let's feel comfortable in our buy position, and if anything like the breakdown retest of the structure happen, could incite some selling opportunities into this ascending trend line, probably to incite an uptrend continuation, or the breakdown of this trend line could incite a sell-off in this market. So let's leave that to when price gets into that area at all. That is, if it ever gets into that structure. Now, with the information we have here on the 4 hours time frame, let's scale down into the 1 hour time frame, and let's see how we intend to position ourselves for today's trading session. So this morning, while I was trying to dissect the current market structure with the hopes of identifying potential trading opportunities, this is what I was able to come up with here. So hold on a second. So this is what I was able to come up with this morning. So I took into consideration the nature of price action since the beginning of this week, and you will see how price has uniformly found higher lows in this market. And when we connect the series of higher lows here, we have an ascending trend line that we can use to guide our trading decisions for today's trading session. Now, as long as price remains above this ascending trend line, we shall feel comfortable in our buy position. Now, if you look at what has been going on here in the last 3 to 4 hours, you will see that sellers have been trying to break down that ascending trend line, but has met stiff resistance from the buyers. Now, if the bullish momentum here persists, that is the buy pressure here persists, then I want to be looking out for more buying opportunity if price will break out of this resistant line at the 1.2300 area. Now you can see what has been going on since the early hours of the week of today's trading session. As soon as price got into the 1.23, we saw selling pressure persist there. Now, if I'm going to be adding more buy position, I want to see price break out of the structure to join that uptrend move. So that means price still remains above the ascending trend line. Now, there are two ways to which we can capitalize on this. For those who are with me and know how to do this, but if you are new with us, then let me explain to you in clear terms. Now, if you're profitable so far this week, that is, if you had joined us early, that is when we bought at the structures here, then you can afford to leverage on the profit you have made so far this week to test waters above the 1.23 by placing a buy stop order above this structure. Now, if we place a buy stop order there and price gets triggered, if it doesn't work, then we know that we're just risking some of the profit we have made so far this week. However, if you are new with us and this is your first time taking a position, or probably you're coming from a clean slate, then I encourage you to exercise patience, wait for a retest of structure to happen on our lower time frame before jumping into a uptrend scenario. So as long as price remains above the trend line and breaks out of the 1.23, we'll hold on to a bullish bias. Now, in as much as we're looking out for buying opportunities here, Remember that the pound sterling has been on a strong bearish pressure in the last couple of months, and in that regard, we cannot ignore the potentials that sellers can bring to the table. Now, if we consider the continued selling pressure around the 1.2300 area since the early hours of today, and buyers find it difficult to break out of the structure, then the chances that price will break down the ascending trend line will increase. Now, if price breaks down the ascending trend line, this will be a sign that we could have a momentum shift, as the trend line may no longer have the capacity to negate that bearish attempt anymore. Now, one thing I'm going to be looking out for to sell is a breakdown of structure, retest of that structure to confirm that truly buyers are finding it difficult to climb above that ascending trend line. Then we can join that downtrend move. And if we join, we can have more opportunities at the breakdowns of levels such as the 1.2265, 1.22360, and the 1.2200 area, where it will lead us back into that major ascending trend line we identified on the higher time frame. Now, depending if price gets this far, that is, if it gets this to this area, depending on what happens here will now determine if we are going to be adding more sell position, that is the breakdown retest of structure, or we are going to be buying at the appearance of a reversal pattern. So let's see how the market will play out here in the next 24 hours. I still hold on to a bullish bias here based on the fact that price still remains above that our ascending trend line. However, if it breaks down the ascending trend line, then we can now start considering selling the GBP USD. So these are my views on the GBP USD for today. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So as usual, I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds off and wait to see if there's going to be any questions. And you can as well use that time to mark out these levels on your charts, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your independent trading decisions.